Hi, everybody. I'm really excited about the interview I'm bringing you today. But before we get to that, please do me a favor and subscribe. It would really help us out. Now, let's get to that interview. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Too Opinionated. I'm so excited. Today, I've got singer-songwriter H. Jack Williams with me. So welcome, Jack.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh yeah. We got a little bit to talk about. I'm such a fan of your music. I was telling you off camera, it's my type of music. There's a lot of emotion and some gravitas to the songs. I really enjoy it.
Thank you.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
still trying to learn how to be a good singer.
Well, if you figure it out, please let me know.
I'll never figure it out.
No, I think you're so talented.
Figure it out. No, I will never figure it out. I just said to somebody yesterday, I wrote a song with my friend Moose, and he wanted me to sing the vocals on it, and he sang it so perfect we wrote it together. He sang little scratch vocals, and I mean he sang it like Roger Daltrey would sing a song, and I was like, I can't do that. I can't be that, Moose. And he was like, no, you just sing it the way you sing it. But I mean, you still try to emulate, you try to make it sound as good as you can. And my voice just doesn't have that kind of range, so I have to go with what I got.
Well, that's right. But in my opinion, I think what you have is pretty good, enjoyable.
Thank you.
So Jack, let's start this way. Tell me a little bit, because you've got such a good story. Tell me a little bit about, how you got into the music business. What made you want to be a musician?
Oh, I played guitar. Well, I started out playing the guitar when I was really young, and then I switched over to the first instrument I ever played actually was the saxophone. I played saxophone in my school band, and then after that I switched to guitar, and then I switched to B3 organ, and I went back to guitar. But I always played instruments, and I always wrote poems. So I did those two things when I was a kid. I mean, when I was a teenager, I guess, and but I never connected them. You know what I mean? I never put them. I never knew that made a song until I met Peter Gabriel. And then when I met Peter Gabriel, he was the first person I ever met in my life that was a somebody. And I gave him what now I know is a poem, but back then I thought it was a song. And I gave it to him. I was backstage at their show, and Genesis, and he read it, and then he went, well, this is really good, but what are you asking me? And I said, well, I just want to know, I mean, is that a good song? And he went, no. I mean, yeah, well, it's a good poem. And do you play any instruments? And I said, yeah, I do. I play guitar. And he said, well, go put the two of them together. And I went, well, how do I do that? And he went, well, you listen to music, figure it out. You can put it together. So I did. And I spent the next year figuring that out. And then I started writing, oh, this is a song. And then that just, of course, that just led me into the world that I'm in now.
Yeah. I think that's so neat, because somebody could have told me that. And if I had to say, well, how do you do that? And their answer was, well, figure it out. I would still be trying to figure it out.
Well, I wanted to, I didn't know, you know what I mean? Sometimes when you're really young, I really believe when you're young, and I've got a teenager, so I see him. When you're really young, you don't know what you already know you want. And I think that it sets its course. I read something not too long ago that said, it was quite interesting. because I asked all my friends and every one of them said the same thing. They answered correctly. It said, if you can go back to when you were 12 years old, and if you could think back to when you were 12 years old and you could remember what you wanted to be when you were 12 years old and what your dream was at 12, that's who you are today. And at 12 years old, I remember that it was just a little bit before the Beatles were coming out, and it was right about that time. And I wanted to, I want to do that. And here, I mean, I'm not the Beatles, but you know what I mean.
You know, I love that actually, because
my wife,
appropriate.
I'm sorry, I just finished.
Yeah.
My wife's a scientist, and she said when she was 12, she was at the beach figuring out little shell crabs and doing stuff and trying to figure out what made it all that ticket. She's a marine biologist. So I think that 12-year-old thing sticks. I really do.
Yeah, I actually really like that. I know what I wanted to be at 12 years old. I wanted to be in the comic book owning business, right? So I got to do that for a while, but what I'm doing now is my way of still being connected to the things that I love, especially the more, nerdy side of it. So yeah, I believe it. I never would have guessed I'd be podcasting, but here I am.
See, my son would love that. My son, he would love that you're doing all that nerdy stuff because he's going to be a chemical engineer. He's going to college next year. It has nothing to do with what I do. Him and his mom are both scientists, and he's never wanted to play music. He's never but I hate that word. I'll use it because you used it. If you hadn't used it, I wouldn't have used it. But that nerdy side of him is all him, and he gravitates to people like yourself. So I'll have to. He'll be interested to hear that. I mean, the whole wanting the whole comic book thing. I mean, he's 18 and he still collects Pokemon cards. I mean,
that's my people.
I know. I can tell.
No, I love that. I love that. So did you start? Were you writing songs for other people before you started singing your own songs, or was it vice versa?
No, I was writing songs just to write songs, period.
Yeah.
And it all started when I met Richie Havens. When I met Richie Havens, I was just writing songs. At that point in my life, I didn't even know there was a thing to write songs for other people. You know what I mean? I knew there were songwriters, you know what I mean? And artists and people that wrote their own songs. And I thought everybody that you saw singing a song wrote I had no idea that somebody else might've written them. I didn't know that was another side of our business. And then I met Richie, and that's when I learned that, I didn't know that Barry Manilow had written songs for other people before he became Barry Manilow, and I didn't know that stuff until I met Richie, and he helped me put a little band together in New York City. It was called The Raven, and it was a 3-4 piece band, and it was I don't know, I guess something across between Richie Havens, Bob Dylan, and Tom Waits, that kind of thing. It was really organic. I had a percussionist that played congas. I had a sax player and a lead guitar player and me. And it was like Mick Jagger singing folk music, if that makes any sense. And it was getting a buzz. And and it worked, and we did that. And it was only after that when I finally got a song published that I realized, wait a minute, you can write songs for other people. Oh, well, I want to do that too. That would be cool. And then, that's when I started. That's when I met the Who, and they signed me to their publishing company, and it was like, write a song, learn to write a song, and maybe so and so could do it. Of course, that didn't happen back then with me on that contract. It didn't happen until Uriah Heep, and then Uriah Heep recorded my songs, and it was like, oh, this is how it works. And I don't know. Richie always thought I should have stayed doing what I was doing. And maybe I should have, because I'm back to doing that again now, years later. But yeah, I think that I didn't know that there was that business in it. Where nowadays everybody knows that, oh, well, there's a songwriting business.
That's
You
right.
can write you can write songs for other people that don't write their own songs. But I didn't know that when I started out.
What was it like? You know, this has been back a few years. So the first time that you heard some of your music, say on the radio, what was that like?
Well, that was a Uriah Heep song, and I heard it in England, and it was I don't know, it's hard to explain. It's hard to explain what you feel like when you hear that stuff, because I had been in the studio with him, and I watched these guys. These were mega rock stars. You know, these were gods. And I was in the studio watching these guys play my songs. And so when they released a song on the European stations, and I actually heard it, it was a whole different ballgame. It was different. It was because it was compressed. I didn't know that's what it was back then, but it did sound different than what I heard in the studio. But it was a great feeling. It was an honest, great feeling.
Yeah,
But
I think that would be
great as it
so
is
neat.
to see yourself. Yeah, it was a great feeling.
Yeah, and I'm sure if you wrote the song and you're singing it, even better. But I think that first time when you hear something that you've created, you know, coming from anywhere, that would be kind of neat.
Honestly, the honest to God truth is that the moment of, I can still remember the day, the first time I ever wrote a country song here in Nashville. And I wrote it with George Tarrin, big songwriter. And I had never written anything. I never had anything demoed country, and I loved country music. I mean, I really loved it, but I had never done that in my whole life. And I wrote it with him, and then he went and he demoed it. And when I heard it back, done Nashville style, that was the moment that I never forget that moment. I still play that song time to time because it was just a moment that I'll never forget, because it was like, oh my God, this sounds like Waylon Jennings, you know. And I mean, it was a whole different ballgame for me than the rock stuff. It was like, wow, so this is what it can sound like. So that was a great feeling. That was the best feeling in the world.
Yeah, I love that.
More than anybody else doing my song. The fact that we had a demo singer, I believe it was Ron Wallace, one of our top demo singers in town. And we had all the A musicians in town played on it. And I heard that. It was the first time I ever heard anything that sounded just like the stuff on the radio. And I was like, oh my God, that was a moment. That was one of the best moments in my life.
I love it. Is it difficult at times when you write a song and then someone else is singing it so that, you know, they're going to make it their own? Is that difficult sometimes, giving up, you know, your vision of the song when somebody else is doing it, if that makes sense?
Personally, I've never had that issue.
You really?
I've always been of the mindset that I've always been so grateful to somebody else cut my song. Yeah. I didn't care what they did to it. I mean, no one could make it sound bad. I don't care if it was sounding bad. In my eyes, just the fact that they did it was glorious. You know what I mean? Even if my co-writer said, "Oh my God, he's not singing it the way we wrote it," I just go, I don't care. He's singing it, man. It sounds great to me. I can't think of any song I've ever had recorded that I could go, I didn't like the way he sang it or they cut it. To me, that's, I don't know. That's just ungrateful, I think. You know, I just don't think you should do that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I agree with you. even if I had some opinions about it, I wouldn't say anything.
Yeah, keep it to yourself. Yeah, because in this world that we live in the music world, if you're lucky enough to get that done, for that to happen, you don't need to be saying anything negative about it.
That's right. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. So you've transitioned a little bit. So now you're making music now for film and television. And I know you've been working with Kevin Costner some. Talk about that a little bit.
Some is the key word. We're really good friends, but we don't get to work together as much as I would love, but he's so busy.
Yeah.
But those times when we do get to work together, it's awesome. We've written a handful of songs together, and every time we've written something together that I could get him on a Zoom like this, like the one song on my record, that was a great moment because Gary Rosington and Ricky Medlock from Skinner were on that, and he wanted to meet those guys, and they wanted to meet him.
Yeah,
both been at it 50 years. Excuse me, both been had success for 50 years. So you're talking about Leonard Skinner being successful for 50 years and Kevin Costner being successful, and so it was a mutual. It was the most greatest moment because we had a big Zoom camera and I brought it in the studio. I told Kevin 2-3 weeks ahead of time that this was going to happen on that day. And so he was ready for it. They were ready for it. And it was a great moment because I got to watch him and them, they were telling him they loved about what he did. He was telling them about what he loved about what they did. And it was a great moment. So,
Hey girls.
But we became friends a long time ago, a while ago, and I send him everything I write. And sometimes I'll send him something that I really want him to jump in on, and if he has time, he will. And if he doesn't, he doesn't. But it's a great thing. We've written the one song "Road to Hell" that's on my record, and then we also wrote there's 2 songs on my record that we wrote together. I can't remember the other one is. Road to Hell is one of them. One More Day. What am I thinking?
Yeah.
The new song, the video that we're getting ready to come out. Kevin and I wrote that, and that was an awesome moment. And we had him in the studio for that one too. And so, and yeah, I mean, he has all these projects going on, but that doesn't give anybody. Well, it doesn't give me anyway. Speaking for myself, it doesn't give me license to get anything I write into anything he does. All it does is it allows me to at least send him the song, and
Yeah.
And if it works, then he can pass it on to the music people. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. But yeah, but it's a great, I mean, it's a friendship. And I adhere to those lines. I try to stick close to those lines and try never to overstep my boundaries of that friendship.
Yeah, I think that's terrific. And the album you've mentioned a couple times of yours is Halfway to Hell, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, really
and the
good.
Video is One More Day. We just got that done. We just finished his one of his producers and directors, Mark Gillard. He's directed it. We did it out in California, some of it on Kevin's property.
That's pretty neat.
That video should be ready in about 4 weeks. And it's I've got a really good idea. It's going to be really cool because I know what we shot.
So is he more talented as an actor, musician?
An actor.
Pretty good musician though.
Oh, he's a great singer.
Yeah.
He's a great singer, and he's got He's a great singer. He's a great songwriter. You know what I mean? But I think he'd be the first one to tell you that his acting is the first thing that comes first.
He's been
You
at that.
know, I mean, it's like I'm a singer-songwriter, but my songwriting is, I'm better at that than I am at singing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
I think that's okay. You can have something you're better at and still be good at both.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, that's not too bad.
Yeah. I think that's the way you have to, I think that's the best way to, the road to success in life, I think, is that once you find a talent that you're good at, like songwriting. Okay, so I was a songwriter. I wanted to be a singer. I wanted to be an actor. I wanted to be blah, blah, blah. I wanted to be a producer. I wanted to be a guitar player. But I was the best thing I was at was songwriting. So Richie said, master that first, get your success at that first. And then when you have that down and you've done something really good at that, then do the next thing, and then do the next thing. Don't try to do all these things at once, because you'll get nowhere.
That's good advice.
So,
yeah, it's really good.
That's what I think so.
Will we see you pop up on Yellowstone at some point?
Never. Not Yellowstone.
You said you won't overstep your boundaries, so I guess you're not calling up Kevin and being like,
never.
No,
I would never ask that.
Maybe I could just slip it into conversation with him. You know who'd be great on Yellowstone? Jack.
Well, you never know. I mean, he's going to see my video. He's seen 2 of my videos, and he is doing a movie. So you never know. He might get lucky. He might see me in my video and go, God, Jack looks pretty good on camera.
So did I see that you had also done some work for or with Kiefer Sutherland?
No.
Yeah, I thought I saw where his, he's got a band.
Oh, I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking. What you're thinking is the song that I wrote with Warren Haynes, Just Before the Bullets Fly.
Yes, which a great song.
Greg Allman cut it, and that song, that was my first song in a movie. It ended up being in a movie called Renegades with Kiefer Sutherland.
That's it.
Diamond Phillips.
That's right.
And I've always wanted to meet him since then, because he is, he loves that kind of music, and he's got his own thing. And I've always thought that one of these days I'll run into him and go, that movie that you did, that first song when you were at the bar, I wrote that. And that would be a good way to start a conversation off with him.
Yeah, I think his style of music would fit really well with yours.
I do too.
Yeah,
he's got a real raw thing that he does, and it's from the heart. Yeah, for sure. And the other one I wanted to ask you about was Jennifer Garner's movie Miracles from Heaven. Did you do some songwriting for that? Well, that was another one of those things. But what was really cool about, I was sitting around one day, and the phone rang, and it was a California number, and I just answered. The man said, "Is this a Jack?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, this is Don Kennedy. I'm the vice president of music licensing for Sony Pictures, LA." And I went, "Oh, cool." And he went, "We're trying to get a song of yours in a Jennifer Garner movie. It's a true story about a little girl and a Boston doctor, but we're having problems with one of your co-writers, publishers, getting a license cleared on it. And you think you could help us out with that?" And I said, "Well, of course I could." So I said, "Just give me a little bit of time and I'll make some phone calls." So I called my buddies up, and they had no idea. Sometimes publishers don't tell their writers what's going on. They just go ahead and say no or yes or whatever it is. And this particular writer's publisher, he didn't have any. He knew that the song was, I had gotten, he knew that the song was up for being in a movie, but he didn't know that his publisher was fighting, the arguing the fee. And we just talked. I mean, we're buddies, and I just said, let's make this happen, because there's no bargaining on this. And and it happened. So through that, Don Kennedy and I became really good friends. And funny thing about that movie, the whole story about that little girl. Have you ever seen that movie?
I have. Yeah, of course. Yeah, Jennifer Garner's from just down the road from us. So yeah, anything she's in, we watch.
Well, the thing about that movie was that what that little girl had, I actually have. And my wife is my wife is in the medical business now. And to make a long story short, the Boston Children's Hospital, where that doctor, can't remember his name right now offhand, but wherever that doctor worked, she had to do a convention up there, and I knew she was going up there, and I said, hey, when you meet him, get a picture with him. And so she did meet him, and she said, my husband had a song in that movie they made about you, and he was so cool. He said that there was 2 songs in that movie that were fairly big in that movie. And he said the songwriters of the other movie had done the same thing with him. And he was, can't remember what his name was, but he doesn't look anything like the actor did in the movie. But it was a great story. And I was so glad that we had that song in that movie. Yeah, because that movie was a wonder. That movie, I still watch it and cry.
Oh yeah, it's emotional. You definitely want the Kleenex by you when you're watching it.
Definitely a God moment for that little girl.
Yeah, for sure. So you're not only a musician. You've done some restaurant work.
Yeah, I was a chef the whole time that was coming up. Well, I started out as a cook, and I worked my way up to being a chef, and that's what kept me alive until I started making some money until I finally got a publishing deal that gave me some money. But there was a point in my life where I was doing both equally, and I came to a crossroads.
That's hard.
And one would have made me one was going to take me either to maybe being a chef in the governor's mansion, or maybe up to I was thinking White House kind of thing up in the Capitol, doing something up there, or national competition. And the other was songwriting, same kind of thing, same kind of competition type thing. And songwriting won over, but I still love to cook for my friends. I love to cook anytime I can. Cooking is the same thing as songwriting, as one is with food and the other one is pen and paper, but it's nothing different. They're both still creating, and they both give you instant. I think it's the instantaneous reaction from people. You put a good plate of food down in front of somebody and take a bite of it, they go, man, this is good. You play a good song for somebody, man, I love that. So you get the instant liking or disliking and I think that's why they're both alike.
Yeah, I've never heard anybody compare those two, but listening to your explanation, that works. Yeah, that makes sense.
I think that's the reason why people create.
Yeah, well, I've never thought of cooking as creative, but it really is. I mean, it's very creative.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Of
course it is. I mean, the test for a chef, the final test and this is true across the board. I mean, if you were going to be a certified, I mean, I was 3-star. I got 3 stars back when, but the final test for a chef to be like an executive chef position is what they call is called it's a box test. And what they do is they give you a cardboard box, and they put let's say they put a salmon in there. Let's say they throw some vegetables in there. Let's say they put some herbs in there, some veggies, some starch, some cream, some whatever. They throw a bunch of stuff in a box and they give you 4 hours.
Yeah.
And they give you 4 hours to do appetizer, entree, salad, dessert. And I've always thought that it was no different than my mom opening up the refrigerator at any given time and going, let's see what we're going to have for dinner. You know, I mean, it's the same thing. And that's creative. That's really
you're
creative.
exactly
You
right.
Figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that. And you did some work during the Gulf War, right? Did you ran some kitchens at that time?
I worked on ships.
Okay.
I worked on ships. I was working in a country club in Seattle, and I had a buddy that worked on tugboats in Alaska, and I'd always wanted to work on tugboats, and so he told me how to get that job, and I got the job, and I went from working on tugboats in Alaska to working on research ships, where I met my wife. She was working on a ship called the Atlantis, and that ship had a submarine on it called Alvin, and those two had found the Titanic. That team had found the Titanic.
Oh, okay.
And I worked on that ship for a long time. That's my wife and I, she was doing scientific work on that ship, and I was the chef on that ship. Wow. And then after we got married, I wanted to go on. It's just the same thing. I think it's the same thing as anything else. I wanted to do the next step bigger, and I wanted the biggest ship I could find, and the biggest ships that I could find were the cargo ships that were taking military supplies over to Kuwait for the Gulf War. Right. So I got on that ship, and I worked on that ship and did that until we got attacked in Kuwait. And then I decided that maybe it was time to get off the ships.
Don't you think that a story about a guy growing up who becomes a chef, especially on a military ship, that eventually starts songwriting and then becomes a singer, don't you think that'd make a good movie? I'd watch that.
I'm trying to write that book.
I had a feeling it's such a good story. Yeah, you need to write that, because at some point, once you write it, then we'll see it on the screen.
Well, I'm trying to write the book just because I have a lot of fun stories that I talk to people about. You know, the fun times on the road with the Who and Skinner and all those guys. And I've tried to write that book, and hopefully I can find an editor that can make it all like you just said. I think what you just said was the best I'd ever heard it put, going from point A to point B to point. But I have to write it all out and then hand it to somebody and let them go, okay, let me make that happen, because
you need a good editor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To find.
So give me a sample of a really good story when you're on the road with Skinner or the Who.
One of my favorite stories is when I was on the road with the Who. We were at the Pierre Hotel. Let's see if I can find something to show you too while I'm doing this. We were at the Pierre Hotel. We were at the Pierre Hotel in New York, and Pete Townsend says to me, "I hear you're a chef." And I said, "Yeah, I am." And he said, "Well, can you make lobster thermidor?" And I said, "Yeah, I can make lobster thermidor." And he says, "Well," and he told Doug, who was my friend and Roger Daltrey's assistant, who was the one that put all this together for me and had me out there. He said, "Take Jack and go get some lobsters." So we got in the limousine and we went down. I'm trying to find a picture for you. And we went down, and we got a bunch of lobsters, and we came back and we put them in the bathtub. And then we went, we were hanging around in the living room there. or whatever you call it. And the next thing I know, Keith Moon has got the lobsters out in the main room, and him and Pete have got lighters, and they're lighting them underneath them and wanting to have these lobster races going on in the thing before I cooked them. And it was a fun night. It was a fun night. I'm trying to find a picture of it because I've got a picture of that. If I could just
Get a picture of the lobster races.
No, I don't have a picture of lobster races, but I have a picture of us all together in that living room right there. There it is. I don't know if you can. I don't know if you, I'm.
Oh yeah. Let's take a look.
There's Pete.
Oh, look at that.
There's Pete,
Yeah, that's amazing.
and there's me. And the reason I have let me back it up. This is Keith Moon.
Yeah.
Right here. That was not too long before he died. But the reason I've got my head on that guy's name is Tiny, and he was Pete's bodyguard. But I put my head on his chest so you could get some kind of an idea of how big this guy was.
Yeah, he's a big guy.
I mean, he was huge. But anyway, that was in that living room. That was right after the lobster races. So it was a fun time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. And what a story. See, we need to get that book written.
That's just one little story.
I'm gonna start calling you once in a while just to push you a little bit. Hey, Jack, let's get writing.
Well, I asked my wife last week. Best Buy was running a sale, and she asked me why I wasn't working on the book, and I said the reason I'm not working on the book is because for me to work on a book, I got to come in here. And I said, and this is my studio, as you can see by the guitars.
Oh yeah.
I work in here on my studio, and I play music, and I create in here. I said, but to do the book, I have to come in here and sit in this chair and type in. And I wish I had a laptop to where if I wanted to sit on the couch, or if I wanted to take it to me to a doctor's appointment, or wherever I was, if I wanted to work on my book, I could work on it anywhere. And so she got me a Chromebook. And she said, this is all you need. It's like your old word processor. I had a brother's word processor when she met me.
Yep.
Remember those old brothers?
Oh yeah, that's how I got through college, was a word processor.
And do you remember a thing? Well, okay. Well, do you remember a thing called pocket mail?
I do remember pocket mail. Yes.
I have one.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do. I still have it. You know how you opened it up and put it in the phone and you dial the number and went,
Yeah.
and it transferred all the email. And then that's how we talked. That's how I got email back and forth to Kathy when I was on those ships.
Hilarious.
Working overseas was pocket mail.
I haven't heard that in forever, because like when I was in high school, they were still teaching us to type on a typewriter. But by the time I went to college, they had come out with the word processors that had the tiny little screens on it. That would,
oh my God, they were awful, weren't they? The brother,
they were terrible.
It was a brother word processor. I remember I had two of them. I mean, they were great. They weren't great, but they were. I can remember, but it was the pocket mail, because I would have to type. I would type my emails, save them, type them, and then when we get to a port, then I could get to a phone booth, put the money and put my card into the phone booth, pay the money, put it on there. It would send it across, and then it would receive all hers. And then I had to wait. I got back to the ship and plug it in, and I could, read my email. So then I'd have to wait until our next port of call before I could send her anybody any emails again. But yeah, that was pretty cool. Pocket mail. So now you remember pocket mail.
Oh yeah. Kids today don't understand how difficult it was for us to just communicate with each other. We had to go through some hoops.
We did.
Yeah. I mean, there was some freedom in it too, because nobody could get a hold of you if you were out somewhere. You know, you had to go to a payphone to check in with somebody.
There's a lot to be said for that, you know?
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to be said for that. We've gotten so hooked. I mean, if you forget your phone one day and you get in your car and you're halfway through your day and you go, oh my God, I am lost. What do I do? My whole world is.
You drive home and get your phones, what you usually do.
Is exactly right. That's amazing.
Yeah, it really is. Well, Jack, thank you so much. This has just been a blast and an honor. I love talking with you. I know you've got the best stories. But a couple of things before we wrap up. So your album is Halfway to Hell, and I think the album from Yellowstone is Tales from Yellowstone. Is One More Day going to be on your album, or is it going to be on that album?
It's on my album.
That's what I thought.
No.
That's what I thought. Yeah, that's what I thought. That's so great. Yellowstone's such a great show. And I'll mention, Tim McGraw was on the prequel, 1883. So it's not that far fetched that you could get on Yellowstone.
I know, but that's okay. Cool.
You've got a lot going on. Well, so if we get your book done and a movie made, any thoughts on who could play you in the movie? Like not the younger version, like the now version.
Okay, I'm gonna step away from this for a minute. I'll tell you what I said the other day.
No casting ideas.
This is not coming from me. I made a comment the other day. Somebody said something to me on Facebook about my book, and some wise guy, friend of mine, said, well, I know exactly who could play you. And I went, who? Just messing around. And he said, Keanu Reeves. And I thought about that for a second. I said, well, he does kind of look, I do kind of
that's actually probably the best answer I could have come up with. I mean, that's perfect. He totally could play you.
And we're both really nice guys. So
yeah, he sometimes rocks the hair. He's got the beard. He could totally play you.
Yeah.
I want to invest in this movie.
Get the book done first.
So I did remember one more I wanted to mention. I watched the video for Wonderful World that you did, and I don't know that you've released that, but I thought it was a really neat video because it kind of showed, it wasn't all rainbows and roses. It really made you take a look at state of the world type of thing. And I wondered if you could talk about that for just a second.
Oh yeah, I'd love to. I mean, that is released, but
good.
It still hasn't got its legs under it yet. One day I hope it will. But we, Adam Box, who produced my EP and my album, he's the drummer for Brothers Osborne.
Yeah.
The country band that just won the Grammys and all that stuff. Anyway, he's a genius. And my publisher, Anthem Entertainment, Drew asked me if I would do a version of that song. And we did. And after we did the version of it, remember last year? Well, how can you forget?
That's right. Yes.
Right around voting time when they stormed the Capitol.
Yeah.
We did it right then. We did it right during all that. And we did it because Adam had this vision that, the whole thing was from start to finish, and you've seen it, so whole thing from start to finish was, it's a wonderful world. No, it's not. Not today.
Yeah, it really makes you think.
Maybe. No. Wait a minute. It could be. No. And then, yes, it is. It definitely is a wonderful world. And the whole landscape of that video shows all that. And it ends with, yes, it is a wonderful world with the baby and the people hugging each other. And but it takes you on a journey to that. And honestly, I was telling Gail and Ben that I think it's where we are right now in the world, with the war in Ukraine, and it's the same thing. It's no different.
Yeah, I love the fact that I mean, it's almost like watching a little short film, but it takes you on that journey, but it ends on a hopeful note. So I love that. Yeah.
Yes, we made sure it did that.
Yeah, it was really, really, really well done. Really well done. So Jack, last thing before we wrap up, where can we find you on social media? Is there a website, and where can we find your music and your album?
hjackwilliamsmusic.com.
Oh, easy enough. Easy enough. Yeah, it's pretty well done website. I was playing around on it earlier. It's well done.
My friend Peggy Lynn, Loretta Lynn's daughter, designed that whole thing for me and helps me keep it up. Today's Loretta's birthday. Today's Loretta's birthday too, by the way.
I knew that. I'd heard that earlier. I love talking with you because you can just casually drop names into the conversation. It's pretty great.
I only do it because I know them. And
that's right.
I don't do it to drop names.
Yeah. No, you're better than I am because I would totally be doing it just to drop them in there.
But TJ, my son, is going to want to know how to get to your thing because he's going to want to see everything you're doing. So you're going to.
Oh yeah. I'm easy. I'm easy. Just tell him to watch this when this comes out. You tell him to watch the video because at the end of it, I'll give it all, or listen. I'll tell how to find all our stuff at the end.
Oh, he'd love it.
Yeah. Well, we'd love to have him. That's terrific. So he never went through that phase where he wanted to learn an instrument.
No, maybe for a minute, but no, he always wanted to be a scientist. I mean,
that's awesome.
I don't think I ever, he's always wanted to be a scientist, and he's going to just got accepted at the University of Alabama in Huntsville for chemical engineering. And Loretta Lynn asked him, here's something you'll like. Okay. So we were over there one Sunday afternoon together, him and I, because she loves me to bring him over to see her. And she asked him why he did not want to be a songwriter like his daddy.
Yeah.
And he looked at her and he said, because I don't think I could handle the emotional roller coaster that my dad lives on day to day.
What a great answer. Yeah.
He's intuitive.
That's amazing. Well, and kids are, and good for him for finding a path that works for him. And yeah, tell him to come on over because he sounds like he's my type of person. So.
Oh, I know he is.
All right, Jack. Well, hold on one second. Thank you so much for the time, and definitely you got to come back.
Oh, I'd love to. Thank you for having me. This has been fun.
Well, I'm glad. Yeah, it really has. It really has. Okay, hold on one second. How much fun was that? H. Jack Williams, kind of epic. I mean, he's amazing. What a story. And now I got this whole Keanu Reeves thing banging around in my head. I think that's a movie that we need to make happen. So if you guys want to start the buzz, I'm right on board with that. Definitely do yourself a favor. Check out his work. Check out the website, H. Jack Williams. Listen to his songs. I guarantee you've heard some of them before, and I know that you'll recognize some of them. He's very modest about his singing ability. I think he's a terrific singer. He's probably a better songwriter, but a very talented singer as well, and a 3-star chef. I mean, oh my gosh, that's amazing. I need to go visit him because outside of podcasting, the one thing I'm good at is eating. It's eating. So I need to go and have a visit. He's not that far away from me. Thank you guys so much for tuning in again this week. Really appreciate that. If you haven't done so yet, still trying to grow that YouTube channel, MeisterCon Pod. So please subscribe. That would really help us out. You can find we're closing in on 400 episodes. I can't believe it. You can find all of them, audio and video, on our website, meistercon.com. If we're doing anything in studio, if we're going on location, if we're going to visit Jack and having dinner, all of that will be on the website. We might even be covering a convention, whatever it is. We'll put that on the website, meistercon.com. Thank you guys so much. Until next time, bye everybody.